Howdy there, Isaac here. I know this what if isn't the most popular out there, but come on, how could I not continue the story of Gotenks, a confused, scared child trying to figure out his place in the world? That's a story right up my alley. So, without further ado, let's find out what may have happened if fusion was permanent. The story starts now. The first place Gotenks decided to visit was Mount Paozu, where he saw Chi-Chi for the first time in quite a bit. She had been cleaning up around the empty house, but once she saw Gotenks, she dropped everything and ran straight for the fusion. She hugged him with strength unparalleled, nearly crushing her son's ribs with such force. Gotenks was bombarded with questions of where he'd been, how well he's been eating, and so much more. At such speed, he couldn't really react to it. But Chi-Chi eventually relented and let go, looking at Gotenks and saying she was just grateful that he was safe. The fusion felt a little bad that he had caused one of his mothers to worry so much, and promised never to do that again, but he did say he still had to visit Capsule Corp. Chi-Chi was surprisingly understanding of this though, saying that was fine, as long as he visited her often. Gotenks was confused, as he hadn't exactly figured out the living situation yet, but it seemed Chi-Chi resigned herself to the thought of him living with Bulma. When asked about this, his mother simply crossed her arms and stated that she still had two sons, while Bulma only had one. Besides, Goku was nowhere to be seen, while Vegeta was still around, even if Chi-Chi didn't exactly think he was father of the year. Gotenks was going to protest, but Chi-Chi had none of it, telling him to go off and visit Capsule Corp. She seemed perfectly fine with this decision, but Gotenks thought, for a split second, he saw tears in his mother's eyes, though when looking again, they were gone. Chi-Chi had been pretty nonchalant about things. Yes, she missed him, but Gotenks was expecting a punishment of some sort, or to be coldly scolded for disappearing. But no, nothing. Maybe Bulma would be stricter in her approach to this situation. Once in West City, the fusion landed at Capsule Corp, finding Bulma working on some sort of machine within the yard. He awkwardly waved at Bulma, who waved back, asking what he was doing here. Gotenks rubbed the back of his head and apologized for running away, then explained what went down with Chi-Chi. To his surprise, Bulma said she already had a house set up for Gotenks on the premises, since she figured he wouldn't want Trunks' old room. Okay, Chi-Chi was baffling, but Bulma was acting so nonchalant about this. It had been months, and she was just acting like this was a normal family visit. Wasn't running away a huge no-no? Shouldn't his parents be reprimanding him for doing something so foolish and dangerous? Quite frankly, Gotenks was feeling a little hurt that nobody was making a big deal of his absence. Despite being a much more serious person in this what if, Bulma could still tell the fusion was pouting, and clearly a bit upset, and she knew exactly why. She remembers her own adventures, and how, as a kid, things seemed so different. How the smallest thing can be such a huge motivator, and vice versa. Oh, Gotenks, I'm not mad that you ran away. I'm upset you couldn't come to us for help, but I was never worried about you being hurt. You're far stronger than Goku was at your age, or even Gohan. Besides, Vegeta was the worried one here.
As if. He's a Saiyan. Gotenks could handle anything thrown at him,
Vegeta said as he rounded the corner of a nearby capsule house. Gotenks remembered being knocked out by Vegeta, and his presence certainly was still intimidating, but the fusion also had something to prove now. Before, he was interested in playing games, but now he wanted to see just how strong he'd become since then. Before, his components were just liabilities, but now, he could make Vegeta proud with his skills. Speaking of the Elder Saiyan, while he was certainly happy to see Gotenks, he also wasn't all lovey-dovey. As all Saiyans do, he wanted to bond through training. He revealed Bulma was making another gravity chamber, one that could push them far past their limits. But for now, the previous chamber would have to do. Vegeta invited Gotenks into the chamber, and the two soon showed off the pinnacle of their powers, pushing the chamber so hard that by the time their session had ended, it was absolutely destroyed. Now, while Bulma was happy her husband and son were bonding, she did dislike the mess this created, quickly ordering the two to clean it up before she finished her latest project. Things on Earth began to normalize, with Gotenks traveling between his two families, usually training with Vegeta, but he definitely didn't ignore his elder brother. While Gohan did have some work meetings to attend that everyone hates, Gotenks made sure to train with him, even if it was only throwing rocks and dodging them within the woods. Mr. Pickle also joined in on occasion, though once Super Saiyan and Super Saiyan 2 were unleashed, he had quite a hard time keeping up. While things were much better now, Gotenks couldn't shake the feeling he didn't quite belong. He felt most at home when training, so you would think Vegeta would be the perfect father and Piccolo the perfect mentor, but it was rarely so simple. But things had become peaceful, so Gotenks didn't put too much thought into this. However, that would soon be disturbed, as a certain purple cat awoke from his slumber. From here, Beerus travels to King Kai's, since Goku is there, and Whis thinks he'd be worth at least checking out, despite no longer being alive. Now, while all Goku gets to do is train since he's, no longer alive, and has no responsibilities, he still isn't a match for the GOD. Next up is Earth, and as usual, it's during Bulma's birthday party. Things from here go as they normally do, since despite there being no Buu, Beerus is still here for his Super Saiyan God, and not getting that would still tick him off. Once Bulma stands up to the cat and is subsequently smacked, Vegeta pops off like usual. But he isn't the only one, no. Seeing his mother hurt like that, and knowing how scared Vegeta was of the cat, Gotenks knows everyone else could just as easily be dealt with. While the prince gives it his all, his son powers up into Super Saiyan 3, grips his sword, and charges in. Once Beerus is hit with a Gallic gun, Gotenks swings his sword several times, launching several blade-shaped ki blasts before firing off his evil containment sphere, multiple large explosions expanding the orb. "Collapse and burst!" Gotenks yelled out, closing his hand and causing the sphere to fold in on itself. But for as strong as they were, it was still nothing compared to Beerus, who was revealed to be in perfect condition once the attack was finished. Gotenks, not wasting any time, immediately spawned several kamikaze ghosts, trying to do something that would at least distract Beerus. But that's when Gohan interjected. "Wait, what about Shenron? Why don't we just ask him to make someone a Super Saiyan God? It's at least worth a try, right?" "What? Why would we ever do what this guy wants, Gohan? He's clearly evil." But Vegeta put a hand on his son's shoulder, saying it was best to not fight at this point. The fusion stood down, and then Shenron was summoned. While he couldn't create a Super Saiyan God, he could tell them how one was made. But instead of missing one Saiyan, they were now missing two. While the idea of wishing Goku back to life was thrown out, they'd still be down one. Before Videl musters up the courage to reveal her pregnancy, Gotenks asks if there are any other Saiyans in the universe, which gets the attention of Whis. Well, according to my staff, there are 3 others. That's just enough to complete the ritual. Lord Beerus, I'll be back in 10 quick minutes, don't you worry. Before anybody could say anything, Whis disappears. Gotenks folds his arms and watches Beerus like a hawk. Well, everyone sorta does, but the fusion more so. Unlike with Buu or Hirudegarn, nothing he did worked against Beerus. Not even a scratch. Sure, Vegeta and Gohan had way more experience than him, but he was clearly the strongest Saiyan there. So he should get this Super Saiyan God power. He was their best chance at beating the GOD. but as soon as Whis got back with 3 Saiyans in tow, everything popped off. Firstly, Tarble was happy to see his brother once again, but Paragus quickly got between the two, ordering Broly to attack Vegeta. The brute would go to do so, but Beerus easily dealt a devastating blow to the Saiyan. The purple cat was fed up with all these distractions. He wanted to see the Super Saiyan God, or he'd make sure the last remaining Saiyans would be no more. Gotenks was about to volunteer to become the legend, but Vegeta denied this request.
No, Piccolo told you already. You're just a damn kid, so start acting like it. You just leave it up to your old man. I'll take care of this.
The fusion wanted to protest, as did Paragus, but there wasn't much they could say. With Broly, Tarble, and Paragus all facing their imminent demise, they decided to trust in Vegeta, lending him some of their energy, creating the first Super Saiyan God in centuries. Everyone was amazed at this power, and as Vegeta battled the cat, neither Broly nor Paragus could stop watching. Tarble, on the other hand, wasn't too interested in the battle. Instead, he wanted to meet his nephew, and so introduced himself to Gotenks. The two talked and chatted for a bit, but the fusion wasn't too interested, especially since his father could potentially be unalived by Beerus. But Tarble wasn't too worried. Something told him Vegeta would be just fine, but he didn't have the same feeling when it came to Gotenks. As fate would have it though, Vegeta ended up doing just as well as Goku did in canon, which means Beerus decides to spare Earth and the remaining Saiyans, though he doesn't care what happens to Earth from here on out. But he does warn Paragus that if Vegeta perishes, so too will the Elder Saiyan. He isn't too keen on losing his legendary rival just yet. Having seen the power Vegeta now possessed and how he lost to Beerus, Paragus decides to stand down and simply go on his way. He and Broly simply walk away, disappearing into West City, while the others take Vegeta into Capsule Corp to rest. Despite Gotenks being relieved that Beerus is gone, he's still wary of the other 2 Saiyans on Earth. Broly had power nearly on par with himself, and Paragus seemed like the smart, calculating type, someone who would wait for his revenge. The only saving grace was that Broly could easily be sensed from wherever Gotenks was. Thankfully, they didn't know how to hide their battle powers just yet. While most of the Z-Fighters were worrying about Vegeta or celebrating, Tarble could tell something was wrong with his nephew. When asking about it, Gotenks said they needed to train to prepare for Broly and Paragus. Whilst Tarble and Gohan both said they could relax at least for a little while, the fusion disagreed. Without much warning, he transformed into Super Saiyan and charged both his brother and uncle. Tarble was sent flying into a capsule house, whilst Gohan struggled to catch the attack. The various guests were all in shock for the 40th time today, but Gohan knew what was up. If Gotenks needed this, then he'd play along. Gotenks went into Super Saiyan 2, while Gohan powered up into Ultimate. The two fought an intense battle in the air, causing shockwaves with their punches, ki so chaotic and powerful that even Vegeta woke up. Despite it seeming like Gotenks had gotten angry or was forcing his brother to fight, Gohan and even Piccolo could tell what was really going on. The tears running down his face, the constant need to stop and power up further just to keep up with Gohan. The boy wasn't fighting at full capacity. In fact, Gotenks had been holding back significantly this whole time. This wasn't a fight to the death. It was the only thing Gotenks could do to keep himself together. Finally, Gohan caught both of the fusion's hands, holding him still before giving him a hug. The boy was wheezing and holding his chest, as if he couldn't breathe, not knowing what to do. But Gohan held him close and promised everything would be okay. As things de-escalated, the fusion was finally able to calm down and think clearly for the first time that day. He was so scared, he didn't know what to do, and despite getting so much stronger than when he first formed, he had no idea how to protect everyone there. What if Paragus had decided to kill Vegeta right after Beerus left? What if. What if. Hey, even if that Broly guy wanted to fight, it's nothing the two of us couldn't handle, right? Besides, it looks like Beerus scared them off for right now. If you really feel the need to train, we can. But don't forget, there's more to life than just fighting, okay? After taking a minute to calm down, the fusion agreed, though the threat of Broly still loomed in his mind. Soon, everyone went home, and Gotenks was left alone. He walked through the halls of Capsule Corp, meandering about until finally coming face to face with his old room. There it was, a large Trunks briefs on the door, decorated with stupid, childish stickers of cars and Legos and various other things. He walked into his room, seeing several toys and consoles within, even a computer he once used every day. He tapped on the keys, the tower humming to life, only for Gotenks to notice he didn't remember the password. In fact, he hardly remembered a single thing about these consoles, games, or toys. All he had were brief flashes of that time, and that's all they were. Brief flashes. But that depressing note is where we'll be leaving things off for right now. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you turned the like button into the Super Saiyan God of Legend, or maybe even remember the subscribe button's password. But all that said, thank you guys for getting to this part of the video, and once again, thank you guys for getting us to 500 subs and beyond, since we're now at 512 at the time of recording. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to make posts yet, but I promise I won't forget about the 500 sub special. I'm thinking it'll be between what if General Blue survived or became a Z Fighter, what if Yamcha became a Saiyan, because that one sounds really cool. What if a Cyberman survived? That one is also really cool. It's actually one that I wrote a really long time ago, but I'd obviously redo it. And maybe a Star Wars what if, since I've seen those floating around and there's some really cool ideas, but I disagree with how they're written, and that's all I'll say on that. But I do have an idea about like what if Maul took on the Inquisitors. That sounds like a really cool idea. But if you guys really aren't into Star Wars, then I'll come up with a fourth option, or maybe I'll just leave that for something else. Maybe you guys can comment on a fourth option that you would like if you don't like Star Wars. Anyways, you guys have a good day or night wherever you are. That's it for now. Bye bye.